There we go. Sweet. So if you've been following me on Instagram, you know about the chaos that is my kitchen right now. Actually, it's controlled chaos. There are giant gaping holes in drywall, and I may have taken a hammer to some things, all for the sake of getting the ugly old tile off. So we'll probably be finishing this here this weekend. I'm very excited. All new cement backer board and new tile. So I just noticed that my light just changed inexplicably. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. So it's Thanksgiving. I'm recording this on Thanksgiving, and I'm going to show you guys how to make pumpkin pie. No fail, pumpkin pie. So, again, don't mind the backsplash. One thing I've noticed about this whole experiment with the backsplashing is that we cleaned off all the countertops because we redid the laundry room and turned it into a pantry. And it has freed up a lot of counter space, and I loves it. So to make the pumpkin pie, you're gonna start by whisking together the eggs and the different sugars. And we're going to use a different sugar ratio than what the recipe I was going to use calls for, because as you know, if you've watched me bake, I prefer brown sugar to white sugar in most things, and it really does not do much when it comes to pies to change the texture, so we're just gonna go with it. You're gonna use a half a cup of brown sugar and a third of a cup of white sugar. And you're going to use 3 to 4 eggs, depending again on the size of your egg. Oh dear, I got eggshell in there. I hate that. And again, because I'm using little baby pullet eggs that are just coming out of my Orpingtons, they're a little smaller, so I'm using 4 instead of 3. If you have larger eggs, use the 3 eggs. I think my shells are shattering because again, they're tiny little baby Orpy eggs, and that essentially is, you're seeing me stick my finger in here to get the last little bit of eggshell that I missed out of the white. And yes, naturally I washed my hands before I started this. We're gonna wash again. That is the only issue with this. There we go. So you're going to beat together the sugar, the eggs, and, well, that's what it is, the white sugar, the brown sugar, and the eggs until they get nice and smooth. And once they're nice and smooth, you're going to add your pumpkin puree. I am a heathen, I'm using canned. My pumpkins did not do well this year in the garden. They just, lots of grapevines, and then squash borers. Because squash borers really suck. And they don't seem to die in Houston. They're endemic. So you're going to add your squash puree your pumpkin's puree, sorry. You're gonna add a 3/4 of a cup of creamer. Not creamer, heavy whipping cream, my bad. And a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And this is where the fun begins. After I wipe out my measuring spoon. Because I like a more heavily spiced pumpkin pie. So this is really where you can customize your apple pie, or no, your apple pie, your pumpkin pie. This is where you can customize your pumpkin pie. Apple pie is coming next week. You're gonna learn how to make my Dutch apple pie. So I use a teaspoon, so my spice ratio, and your mileage may vary, play around with it. Learn to like the different complexities of the different spices. I do a teaspoon of cinnamon. I do a half teaspoon, actually no, take it back. I do a teaspoon of nutmeg. Because I really like nutmeg. It is one of my favorite spices. I think it's got a really interesting spicy complexity that cinnamon does not have. But then I use a bit of allspice, about a half a teaspoon of allspice. And I use a 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, ground cloves. And a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. Because I really like a good spicy pumpkin pie. And then you're gonna mix it all together. And I'm really hoping all the audio works on this because I have a new camera and I'm really excited about it. It's supposed to have a really fantastic mic. If not, there's going to be a lot of kvetching later when I listen to the audio and go, where's my talking? Which has happened before. I made an entire meatloaf recipe for you guys and my microphone sounded like a helicopter was trying to take off from my kitchen. Hence why we got a new camera and a new microphone. It's something I've been wanting to get for a long time, and the YouTube thing kind of was the impetus for it. And of course, like every time I've used my stand mixer, you want to scrape as you go, making sure that everything is mixed together. See that, but that is a nice rich dark kind of brownish orange color. That's what you're looking for. I like seeing all the little spice flecks in there, and you kind of need to use a deep dish pie plate for this, and I really love my Fiesta Ware pie plate for pumpkin pie. I'm very peculiar because I have, just kind of smooth that out a little bit. I have certain pie plates that I really like for certain pies. I like my clear Pyrex dishes for apple pie, but for pumpkin pie, you have to use the Fiesta Ware deep dish pan. So I'm gonna put this in the oven for about an hour, and I'm gonna pull it out and we should have a pumpkin pie. One important thing I forgot to mention is my pumpkin pie shield, or my pie shield. It's not specifically pumpkin pie, but the pie shield keeps your edges from getting too done. I let it bake with this on for most of the baking, and then for the last 5 minutes or so, I'll pull it off, and so it gets that lovely golden brown flaky quality to it. Pies are one of my favorite things to bake because there's so many different moving parts to the pie. Cake, you just mix it together, you throw it in, you hope for the best, you hope your baking powder rises. Pies, there's a lot that can go wrong with a pie. One hour, and we'll have pie. So the pumpkin pie has been baking at 425 for about 15 minutes. Now we're gonna drop the temperature from 425 to 375 because pumpkin pie is by its very nature a custard. And if you cook the custard too quickly, it makes for, that's what causes that rubbery cracking texture. You want it to be more like a pumpkin-y creme brulee. You can see behind me the last remains of the original tile. It's going away tomorrow. And then new subway tile. It's gonna be amazing. So the pie and the husband are in here. The pie has been in the oven for about 15 minutes. And now I'm gonna rotate the pie and let it cook for another 15. So if you notice, it's kind of turned to this lovely brown color. And yes, my crust has a tendency to shrink in when I use this pie plate. I still have to figure that one out. But we rotated it. Another 15 minutes and it'll be done. So after 15 more minutes of baking, after I rotated the pie, we've pulled it out. There's a little bit of cracking on the outside, but not anything terrible. Like sometimes you'll see poor pumpkin pies with giant like Andrea's fault thing going down the middle of it. And with this pumpkin pie recipe, which is really a combination of recipes, I really like the Vincent Price of all people had a really good pumpkin pie recipe. He and his wife had a cookbook. And they made a more heavily spiced pumpkin pie than what you typically see, and I really liked it. So I used aspects of that and aspects of another recipe and kind of made a hybrid recipe that I'm going to share with you in the show notes. So I'll probably mix up some whipped cream here in a little bit after dinner, right before we eat it. It's going to cool while the rest of the food goes in the oven. And everybody I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, because you're gonna see this after the actual day itself, but you'll have it for any other pumpkin type holidays coming around the corner. So everyone have a good day, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. So dinner's over, and Everett, who is awesome, is doing the last of the dishes and putting away the food while I make whipped cream to go on the top of our pie. Typically I use my stand mixer to make whipped cream, but I don't have to drag it back out again because my awesome husband wiped it all down and put it away, which is cool. And so I'm going to use my immersion mixer, my immersion blender. I have about a cup of whipped cream, heavy whipping cream. About a cup and a half actually, left from making the pie. And to sweeten it, instead of using sugar, I'm going to use just a little dollop of maple syrup because, and not too much. I mean, you just want a little bit because you want a little sweetness. And I kind of like the little mapley flavor with the pumpkin pie. I think it just works really well. And then do not turn it on and stick it in. It's already kind of starting to form the little peaks. It's starting to take form. You can see how you pull it off and it kind of forms peaks. And you keep going at that point. But you're getting to where you need to be. How you make whipped cream that is maple syrup infused for your pumpkin pie.